slave to spite her cruel master, Delphine Lalaurie. Medical personnel were shocked by what they saw when treating the Lalaurie slaves. Some of the slaves bore festering wounds infested with maggots. Others had obvious signs of intentional injuries inflicted upon them, such as drill holes in their skulls. At least one slave could not walk because of severely injured legs. The scandal mushroomed as word spread through the community of the bizarre and cruel injuries the slaves had suffered before the fire destroyed much of the Lalaurie mansion. The New Orleans Bee reported that thousands of people came by the police station to view the slaves, having heard of the atrocities and wanting to see if the story was true. The paper then reported that many of the angry citizens made their way to the Lalaurie mansion, where they demolished and destroyed everything upon which they could lay their hands. The mob remained still unabated and threatens the total demolition of the entire edifice. Police were called to restore order. The house was not destroyed by the angry mob, but the paper reported that much of what the Lalauries had saved from the fire was. The mob was not content to just smash the Lalauries' furniture. Calls went up for Delphine to come out and answer for her actions. Realizing there was no way she could remain in her home, and fearing the crowd outside might turn into a lynch mob, she hitched up a carriage, and she and her husband raced away from the city, escaping some who tried pursuing them. They were rumored to have fled to the docks, where they had paid a handsome amount in gold to a ship's captain to take them immediately to either New York City or Paris. From there the Lalauries faded from history. Stories persisted that they lived in exile in Paris, and that possibly in her old age Delphine had returned to the city in secret, where she finally died with no one taking notice. The house remained as a gruesome reminder that even in the homes of the rich, unspeakable things might be happening behind closed doors. Despite its lurid reputation, the house was eventually sold to others and repaired. The tales of torture and murder would follow the home from owner to owner through the decades. From time to time, the story would reappear in local papers, discussing the history of the house and its former owners. They had dubbed Delphine Lady Nero, and the Lalaurie mansion became renowned as a house of horrors. The legend of the house grew over time, and as so often happens, the story was embellished and exaggerated, becoming more horrific with each telling. Dozens of people were said to have been killed in the house, making Delphine one of the most reviled characters in Louisiana history. She was said to have hidden corpses in a well on the property and to have buried murder victims in her courtyard. The Lalaurie mansion still stands in the French Quarter, but how much of Lady Nero's story is true? Delphine's marriage to Dr. Louis Lalaurie was her third, but the French doctor who was 20 years her junior provided a lifestyle unlike any she had been able to afford previously. The house they purchased on Royal Street in 1831 was palatial, although it was only 2 stories tall then, and Delphine would soon become known for her extravagant parties, to which she invited the better elements of New Orleans society. At the time, New Orleans was the 5th largest city in the United States, with a population of more than 46,000. To maintain the residence and throw huge parties, Delphine kept several servants, slaves, in the house. During this time, neighbors whispered that Delphine treated her slaves cruelly. Although slavery was legal at the time, slave owners were still expected to treat their slaves with some modicum of humanity. Delphine apparently didn't think such notions applied to her. Within just a few years of moving into the home, Delphine was brought to court, accused of physically abusing one of her slaves. The charges were not criminal in nature. Abuse of a slave was considered only a civil matter at the time. That is, one could be fined for the infraction but not put in jail.